Good morning, everyone. We're here live today for our day one of Chill Out Your Hot Flashes. I have been waiting for this day for over a month. I've been preparing for you. So I just want to really have a thank you for all of you who have joined us for this challenge, all of you who are here in the Menopause Success Facebook group, and I'm just here to share. So let's begin. Looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty today. I'm going to shut down a few windows here. Let's see if that helps. Okay, hopefully we're working out all the bugs here and you can hear me today. All right. So I posted in the Facebook group this morning, um, or maybe a couple of days ago, question: when it comes to hot flashes, I wish I knew blank. So I've gotten a few responses, so I'll talk about those. Um, and these were some of the responses in there. How to stop them once they start, and I think that's a good point, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit. How to make men suffer from them instead of us. I love that, Julie. Thanks for that one. And one of the big comments was, when it comes to hot flashes, I wish I knew that they continued post menopause. I know that can be a real letdown when you find out, oh man, this can keep going. Um, I thought I was done with all of that. So we'll package all of this up into some real sensible solutions this week. And the other comment was how to stop them altogether. So hopefully this week, in the next 5 days, you'll get some really great strategies on how to manage these hot flashes and just chill them out, because we want to enjoy our summer. We want to enjoy the rest of this beautiful time in our lives. So, who am I? How do I come to be this person who can talk about hot flashes and all of this menopause stuff? Well, I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, and I do some other holistic modalities as well. I'm an author of Aromatherapy for Menopause Success. If you haven't seen the book, it's very comprehensive, easy to read, room for notes. There are checklists and charts and all kinds of things in the book that I think you'll really find helpful on your menopause journey. And I published that book a couple of years ago and have been teaching classes around that ever since. So I'm also a reflexologist. So I'm working on women every day in my practice and helping them to work through their health issues, which also include menopause and hot flashes. So, um, but most importantly, I am a menopausal woman, postmenopause, and I've been through it. I've dealt with it. I'm still dealing with it. And so I speak from my heart and I speak from experience. So that's why I'm really passionate about coming here and helping you um, in these areas of your life. So today, on our first day, we're going to be talking about food triggers. And a lot of a lot of people don't think about, well, if I eat this food, does that mean that I'm going to have a consequence as a hot flash? And so I'll help you understand and connect the dots a little bit more on this subject. But first, I think that we should probably talk about some stats and some basic anatomy so that you can really understand what we're dealing with here in the realm of hot flashes. Okay, it's a hot topic, no pun intended. So in North America, 75 to 85% of women experience hot flashes. That is huge. And I've seen some statistics that even say up to 90% of women in our culture experience hot flashes. I think there's some cultural links to that because in some other cultures, women don't experience hot flashes, like many of the Asian cultures. And in some countries, there is no word for menopause. You just become a wise woman and you're considered that. And it's just part of the process of life. So, the women that have been studied in the US regarding hot flashes, they've also linked cardiovascular issues later in life with those women who have a lot of frequent flashes. So I think that it's really interesting because the cardiovascular system is triggered when there is a hot flash. And so overuse of the cardiovascular system, I believe, can lead to some issues with the heart later on. Different symptoms that accompany these hot flashes can be heart palpitations, anxiety, irritability, fatigue, and often brain fog. I mean, when your heart is having to pump and utilize more of the oxygen, your brain is not going to function as well as it should. You could experience chills or shivering. There could be a tingling or crawling of your skin sensation. You could experience overall weakness. And for a period of time, I also felt the symptom of feeling trapped or suffocated, like, get me out of here. So I don't know if any of you have felt any of those symptoms, but there's traditionally it's just the blushing and the skin blotchiness and that sweat that we feel, which can be very debilitating. Hot flashes can start as early as your mid 30s and they can last into your 60s. And research shows that 40% of women in the US still experience hot flashes between the ages of 60 and 65. So I don't want to create this atmosphere of real depression, like, oh my God, this is going to go on forever. I want you to be empowered with this information so that you can not only have a point of reference as we go through the week, but also be able to sit back and allow yourself some grace and say, this is just a process. And we'll talk about mindset a little bit later in this session too, because I think it's important to start off with a good mindset as we enter this phase of our lives. So that's all part of it. Medical menopause, which could be brought on by having a complete hysterectomy. It could be brought on by having a cancer experience and having chemotherapy or radiation. This can also increase the frequency of hot flashes. And I've had several clients who we've been on that journey of managing that through medical menopause. Other factors that can affect hot flashes or cause hot flashes are medications. Like, who knew, right? So if you're on a medication for blood pressure or any type of heart medication, sinus medication, allergies, pain relievers, and estrogen blocking drugs, all of those things can initiate hot flashes. So it's worth looking at what kind of medications you're on or what kind of over-the-counter medications that you're taking for different things. Lifestyle also plays a big part in your risk of hot flashes. So if you're a smoker, that increases your risk. If your body weight is higher, people who fall into the categories of obesity increase their severity and frequency of hot flashes. So really helping to manage blood sugar and glucose, and we're going to be talking about that in different classes this week as well. can really help manage your hot flashes. And also, the liver plays a part in metabolizing your hormones. And if you have a sluggish liver, or if you're not a very efficient metabolizer through your liver, you're also going to have those hot flashes. And I have sort of a little theory about hot flashes and liver function because in Chinese medicine, I've learned and studied that the liver is the organ of heat in the body. And when the heat rises, which is what we experience as a hot flash, when the liver's a little irritated and angry or sluggish, not processing those, metabolizing those hormones, it gets a little angry, and yes, you're going to have hot flashes. So we're going to be covering that a little bit more this week as well. So we've got a really packed week set up today to get going with. So I'm going to refer a little bit to my book today because I have a whole section on hot flashes. And there's a really good checklist for you in there in understanding that. It's really kind of still a bit of a mystery to the medical community about, why we actually have hot flashes. There's a miscommunication in the brain that sends messages to the heart and the nervous system. So we're going to talk about that. But it still amazes me that we can put a man on Mars, do all this stuff out in outer space, but scientists still can't figure out why women really have hot flashes. So, yeah, it's one of those things I'm like, seriously? Come on, let's figure this out. So, I've had to go a little bit rogue in my own studies and discoveries about it. But hopefully, I'll be able to boil it down for you to make sense. So, as our estrogen and progesterone levels start to decrease in our as early as our mid 30s, but definitely into our 40s and 50s, we're seeing that estrogen plays such a big part in how healthy our skin is, how well our brain is functioning, how well our metabolism is. And so when those levels start to go down, things can get a little bit of haywire. So there's this part of your brain that's called the hypothalamus. And when estrogen levels decrease, the hypothalamus gets confused and it gets inaccurate messages from the body, signaling that it's too hot. So the brain responds and it sends out this red alert to the heart and the blood vessels and the nervous system that the body needs to be cooled off. So the heart pumps faster and blood vessels open up so that more circulation of blood can happen. And it also activates the sweat glands. And so, voila, you are in the middle of a hot flash. We're going to unpack that a little bit more this week, each day, so that we can find out how you can start to control these hot flashes. And I hope that that's going to be so liberating to you and so valuable that you will have some tools at the end of these 5 days to be able to really manage these hot flashes. So now that you know the mechanics, we're going to dive into our first section. And just know that even though we have estrogen and progesterone, there are a lot of other hormones at play too. So back to Julie's comment, how to make men suffer from these hot flashes instead. Just know that testosterone is a hormone too. And if their testosterone level drops, yes, ladies, they can have hot flashes too. So you're not the only ones. And let's focus today on food. I'm going to take a drink. Food can trigger hot flashes. So I'm going to give you the top foods that have been tracked by me and by many other women that can produce hot flashes. And we're going to be watching these triggers for the remainder of these 5 days. So here's the short list. hot beverages, alcohol, spicy foods, sugar, and caffeine. And I know when I say this list, people go, ugh, I have to give up all of these things if I want to stay away from hot flashes. But what I want you to do this week is I want you to just be aware. So, for instance, hot beverages. I mean, I live here in the Pacific Northwest, and we love hot beverages because it's cold and rainy most of the time. But just by tweaking that, yeah, I can have my hot beverage in the morning if I'm going to be up moving around and outside. That's great. But if I have a hot beverage at night before I go to bed, I am guaranteed to have a hot flash. So I'm very aware of when during the day that I'm going to choose to have a hot beverage. Like today, I'm doing my iced herbal tea, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But it's keeping me cool, and that's keeping my hot flashes in check. Alcohol. Alcohol, remember I talked about the liver earlier? Alcohol has to be filtered through the liver. If the liver is not processing things properly already and it's struggling, it's not going to be happy. It's going to get angry. It's going to get heated. And there's going to be a consequence called a hot flash. So I know personally that I just have to stay away from alcohol. It doesn't agree with me. And it definitely doesn't agree with my liver. Spicy foods are next on the list. And I love to have spice in my foods. But I've learned to choose my spices wisely. So I'm not doing a real spicy curry. I'm not doing really hot Mexican food with really jalapenos or anything like that. But I do find spice that is going to be nice and mellow and still give me some flavor. I use a lot of citruses for that. Sugar, I'll just say sugar is definitely not in my diet. Sugar is a big trigger. When your glucose levels get elevated, it does affect the heart, and you will see a definite increase in hot flashes with sugar. And caffeine. Caffeine is going to raise our cortisol. Cortisol is going to raise our glucose levels. And cortisol is all part of the nervous system. So I know for me, Pacific Northwest, hey, we love our coffee. We love, 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 love our coffee. So it's just making choices like, okay, maybe I'll have my coffee every other day, and I'll substitute something in, and then just gradually working towards herbal solutions. And I'll talk about some of that. Um, so those are my top five. I also feel like dairy can be a real trigger for some people. And so you could add that to the list as well. So let's talk about swap outs, because I know it feels like, okay, all these factors go into women having hot flashes, and here are all these food triggers, and now I got to rearrange my whole diet and all that kind of thing. So I want to make this really easy. I want you to have some ease and grace with all of this. This shouldn't be stressful, and we're going to talk about stress tomorrow. So I just want to ease you into this today. My swap out for my hot beverages, like I said, is herbal teas. Look at this beautiful herbal tea today. This is a hibiscus and peppermint infusion. And I just did it outside in the sun, putting my hibiscus flowers, they're dried, and some peppermint dried in this, and just let it go in the sun. I added a little bit of stevia. I grow stevia in my garden, so I dry it every year. And this is so cool and refreshing. The peppermint in there is really going to be helping to cool the body as an herb. The hibiscus is going to help with cholesterol, which is also going to be beneficial to the liver, and it's a gentle detoxer. So I love sipping on this all day long as a way to minimize the onset of hot flashes. If you want to swap out your alcohol, one of the ways that I love to do this is using seltzer water with a twist of lemon or lime. You can also freeze fruit like blueberries or raspberries in ice cubes and then add that to some seltzer water. There's a brand of seltzer water that I like. It's called Spindrift, and it's just seltzer water with real fruit in it, but it doesn't have a high sugar content. So I really enjoy that too as a refresher. And if you want to swap out your coffee and start, doing that, there's a couple of products that I recommend. One of them is Teeccino, and I don't know locally where you can get it. I mean, maybe Whole Foods or something like that if you're near one of those. But I order it on Amazon. It's called Teeccino, and I get the one that has some coconut in it. And it's just a little tea bag, and it's dandelion root, and I think there's some chicory in it too. And it's really good. I've even made lattes out of it with some nut milk, and that's been really nice. There's another product called Rasa, Rasa, and it's an herbal tea that you can use as a coffee substitute. And I find them quite nice. I enjoy them. So I'll encourage you to try that and see how you do with that. Uh, I want to step into some mindset for a little bit today. Um, when hot flashes arise, it's part of it is our estrogen is lowered and progesterone, and we don't have as much in our bodies anymore as we go through menopause. But the other part of it is that it gives us an opportunity to really check in with our body. What is our body asking? What is our body telling us? We have these beautifully dynamic bodies that are always trying to find balance, and they're always giving us clues about how we can find balance. And I feel like menopause is a journey. It's not something we say, ugh, I just want to get rid of all these symptoms and stop this whole thing. If we do that, we miss out on the experience of the journey. And as you know, not all journeys are picnics and flowers and roses and cotton candy and all that good stuff. Sometimes there's some real nitty gritty mud puddles and holes that we fall into that we have to figure out how to get out of. But we find our best experiences and the things that really stick with us out of those difficulties. And so instead of wanting to push these symptoms away, squelch them, I want you to look at it as your body is asking you to pay attention. It's giving you clues. And we owe it to these amazingly dynamic bodies to listen to clues so that we can shift into a state of balance with ease and grace. So oftentimes, as I feel a hot flash rising up, I drop into a state of deep breathing. And I'm just asking my body, what is it that you want to tell me today? What is that burning, heated up thing that you want to tell me today? What is it that I need to learn from you today? And I know that might sound really cheesy at first, but practice it and just get into the mindset of, I want to listen better to my body. And when you do listen, it'll tell you what it needs. It'll tell you what it needs all the time. So be open to that type of a mindset as we go through this. So I have an assignment for you today for day one, and that is to go and download and print the food hot flash journal and start being a hot flash detective. You're going to discover what foods are triggering your hot flashes. So keep a little journal over the next 5 days of what you're eating: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all those kinds of things. And then how many hot flashes you're having during the day. Let's start tracking these and see if you can find what is triggering those flashes. So become a little bit of a detective, all right? If you have loved today's class, ask a friend to join. I want to see as many people as we can in here be sharing and learning from one another, creating this beautiful tribe of wise women. The link will be in your archives page. You got an email today in your email box. You'll get one every day, and it'll have a link to the archive page where you can go download your materials each day, and then share a post in the Facebook feed as you go along this week and tell us about your findings. Ah, I'm so happy that you're here today. I'm so happy I got a chance to share with you. Tomorrow's topic is going to be about stress and the HPA axis. If you don't know what the HPA axis is, we're going to kind of geek out on science a little bit. It's the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and it has it's all about stress and how stress affects your hot flash probability. So we're going to tie all this in together. Today we talked about the hypothalamus as the meter for initiating those hot flashes, getting the wrong message. So now we're going to focus on how it is working with the pituitary and the adrenals in all of this. Tell me what you think about today's class. If you loved it, if you have more questions, please post them in the Facebook page. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful day.